Lacrosse Legends. Lacrosse Legends, a comprehensive look at America's greatest game, featuring legends past, present, and future.
Today on Lacrosse Legends, we speak with Mr. Michael Black and Coach Sean Hammond from the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, a division of the National Interscholastic Lacrosse Coaches Association.
The National Interscholastic Lacrosse Coaches Association was formed to provide dedicated service to high school lacrosse coaches throughout the United States. Recently, NOCA created the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, the DEIC, led by Chair Mr. Michael Black and Assistant Chair Coach Sean Hammond. We spoke with the gentleman about the committee.
Mr. Michael Black, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. I'm Michael Black. I'm the chairman of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee for the NILCA, which is the National Interscholastic Lacrosse Coaches Association.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sean Hammond, and I'm the assistant chair of the NILCA DEIC committee.
I was given an opportunity to help make some change in our high school coaching level in regards to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I was given an opportunity by Joe Baccarella, who's the vice president of NILCA. We began having conversations back in August about speaking to coaches and finding ways to help our coaching spaces be more inclusive towards different identities. That's really important to what our committee is trying to do, and what we are trying to accomplish is trying to reach out to coaches, get feedback, and have some understanding of what are some of the challenges that coaches of color could be going through, coaches who want to be allies, what they're going through, and the opportunity for them to be able to receive some support from us in some way, however we can do that. We're already starting with that with some opportunities that are coming up, and we're really looking forward to a lot of the work that we have planned for the future.
I'd like to take just an opportunity to read our official mission statement so that it's really clear what we are all about. As the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee for the NILCA, our mission is to enhance the game of lacrosse by supporting high school coaches as they embrace, empathize, affirm, and appreciate all of the identities within our lacrosse community. Our committee is dedicated to providing coaches with resources, with education, and brave spaces for authentic dialogue that will lead to growth, understanding, equity, and inclusion for all members in our community and those they influence.
One of the important things that comes across in our work is having the ability to empathize with somebody that's different than you. That's what's important. That doesn't exist in all our spaces. Systemic racism has kept it that way to be able to keep us from being able to empathize with each other. And that's our job, is to try to find a way to turn that around. We believe that anybody who plays this game should have the opportunity to have an equitable chance to compete and have the opportunity of being fully included into a team and welcomed by their teammates, coaching staff, athletic directors, schools, and all families. We want to make sure that coaches who are a part of this game as well can feel that as well. What's important to recognize is that not every coach receives the same experience in our game in regards to active recruitment of coaches. So we want to be able to make sure that if we have coaches of color out there, they're having a fair opportunity to be recruited to programs, learn how to become great lacrosse coaches, but also have a support system behind them through that process until we can make our spaces more equitable and be able to have a more diverse game, both as a coach and also as players.
Mr. Black, you did mention before too, it's not only about black and white. You could also bring in Asians in this conversation. We could bring in Pakistani players. I've seen them on the girls' field.
What is important is that as though sometimes television can come off as if it's a concern with just black coaches, and it's not true. I have spoken with indigenous coaches from over in Canada and here in the United States, in New York or in Wisconsin. I've had an opportunity to speak with his Latinx coaches, had an opportunity to now actually speak to a Filipino coach recently. And we're all asking the same questions. How can we make our spaces more diverse? How can we find more coaches? We actually did complete a survey not long ago, back in October, that emphasized the reasoning, the demographics representation out of 500 plus coaches that ended up filling out that survey showed that 90% of those who took the survey were white Caucasian coaches. And that's obviously very defining. That leaves, essentially a 10% buffer of where everybody else who does not fall into that category of white Caucasian will be represented in that 10% of what's actually of the coaches that are out there across the country. Even with that percentage of who looked at the survey and filled out the survey, we were to recognize that 80% of those coaches recognize that there is hardly a chance, if ever, that they will see another coach of color during their entire spring season. And that says a lot about representation. If we want our players of color to be able to feel like they're a part of this game, it's important that they see coaches that look similar to them. I'm a teacher in the classroom as well. I recognize how important it is for my students to be able to see me as a multiracial, and most see me as Black, physics teacher, coaching lacrosse, recognizing that those things are okay. That's acceptable. It's not just a white sport, as we all hear. The PLL released a video on, I believe, a few nights ago, discussing how it is looked at as a white sport, but it is not a white sport. We don't have to look at it that. And I'm actually saying that in the direction of those who are of color. This is a sport that anybody can enjoy. As long as you respect the game, you respect your teammates, anybody should have an opportunity to play this game, including those who are part of the LGBTQ community as well. They should feel comfortable enough to be welcome to a lacrosse team and be able to enjoy themselves and fight hard for their teammates and try to accomplish a common goal.
Great point there, sir. Great point. Coach Hammond?
One of the things that I've realized coaching here just outside Richmond, Virginia, is that, as Michael just shared, most of the people when I go to games look like me. I identify as a white male, and most of the coaches, as well as the players, have that same profile. And one of the things that really struck me is that we need to do more here to diversify, to include other races, other backgrounds. There's a large Native population where we live here in Richmond. And so one of the reasons that I'm really excited and want to be involved around this is because, as a coach who's not a teacher, so I'm not in the building like Michael is, I'm a business owner, I have an opportunity to be involved in the community and have these conversations at a different level outside the classroom. Another thing that's been really fascinating to me is that where I live right now, some of you may have seen on the news, there is a larger conversation around race and the role of monuments and the role of names of schools that is pervading our local culture. I have a lot of students on my team that are asking questions. And these questions are deep and hard, and I felt kind of ill-equipped to answer those questions. So this committee offered me a place that was safe to ask questions, to learn, to share with others the stories that I'm working through, to get advice, and really to start to understand what it's like to be on both sides of this equation, or all sides of this equation. So my encouragement to you all is maybe you're in a similar situation, and this might be a great place for you to come learn and hear from us as well, as we learn and create that safe space for everyone to be part of.
Coach Hammond, you bring up a great point. One of our associates mentioned that a coach that he was talking with, one of his players wore Jackie Robinson's number out in the field. Throughout the entire game, he was getting harassed about Jackie Robinson, the black, this, that, the third, and the coach had no idea how to deal with it. To your point, there really isn't an answer to the question, but if you join and talk about it in a group chat, if you will, you could come up with a positive direction at least. So I hear what you're saying, and you have a valid point there.
One of the most valuable things already, for me, just being a part of the committee, is hearing from other coaches, especially in the allyship space that I share, about situations they've been involved in and how they've dealt with it, sometimes in really helpful ways and sometimes, honestly, in not helpful ways. And so it's been a great comfort to realize, one, I'm not alone in what I'm going through. And number two, that there's places that we can learn from each other so that we can be more sensitive. We can embrace the differences that we all have in a really helpful way as we try to honor and grow this game.
Those are the important reasons as to why we have been meeting weekly every Monday, spending time with each other. We usually spend about the first 30 minutes of our time together doing in a way of internal professional development, learning about each other and do what we can to help grow. It is important that in order for us to do this work with other coaches, we have to be willing to do it with ourselves first. It does take time. If DEI work was something that was commonplace then we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in now in regards to representation and the concerns about inclusion that we're having in our game right now. If people had more experience at this here, there would be a lot more committees out there. There's not that many committees, and there should be more. We should not be the only committee that's representing high school lacrosse. We hope to help promote the idea of having a women's committee that can help focus with the women's game, what's happening in their locker rooms, what's happening in their coaches' offices, what's happening with their parents, so that they can focus there. Our current direction is to help boys lacrosse in high school, and that's the direction that we have to focus on right now because there's so much work that can be done. And so we are looking forward to be able to have an opportunity to help out coaches. Coming the new year, we look forward to some different ideas that we like to begin working on and making our new projects.
How could anyone who's interested get involved with the organization?
I have an email address I can provide for you, deic.nilca@gmail.com. If you're interested in working with us, and I'd be happy to sit down and talk with anybody who's interested in not only just doing this work and who is a actual high school coach, but somebody that wants to be informed, somebody that wants to see change and wants to take action. I would say to anybody who's interested, please ask yourself, where is that sit in your life right now? And we can talk more about it on the phone about how you could contribute. This is the right time for you. Every coach has a sphere of influence. They have the ability to inspire their parents, their players, their coaches, their athletic directors, and teachers within their vicinity. That's why this work is important. We can help coaches find ways to make their spaces more inclusive, more welcome to any player that comes to that field. If we can help them with help finding coaches that are of color to bring to their staff so that they can show their kids that representation matters. It matters. If we have that ability to do that, then we believe as the DEIC that we can have this game grow in a way that it's never grown before, and support those endeavors that allow our spaces to be more inclusive, our community to be more inclusive, to be more diverse, so that it's not just looked at as a white sport anymore, because it isn't. And it's really important to recognize how this beautiful, amazing, indigenous game that came to us and gave us an opportunity to play it, that we own up to our responsibility to how they see the game as well. Whereas an opportunity to come together, an opportunity to use it in a way to help you grow as a person and to help others grow. So that's what we're hoping for out of this work here. It'll take time, but the time will be worth it.
You are both to be commended. You've coming up with solutions. Best of luck to the both of you. Keep up the good work, and we will speak soon.
All right, thank you. Take care.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mizek. Appreciate it.
The Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. They mean progress. This is Monsanto Muzak for Lacrosse Legends.